Hey guys, okay, we're going to be replacing the transmission fluid and the filters in this 2012 Dodge Ram 1500 today. First thing, I'll go through some of the parts you're going to need. So you're going to need AT+4 Mopar transmission, automatic transmission fluid. Quantity I'll get into once I drain mine for my particular transmission, and I'll tell you exactly how much you need, but I think you're going to require at least a bottle and a half or so. And then you're going to need the filter kit. So this is the filter kit for mine. This is an aftermarket one. You can get the Mopar one, except the Mopar one you have to buy this filter here and this filter separately. And they're a bit more money, but this is a really good company and they have good aftermarket stuff. They also include this cork gasket, which I don't know if I'm going to use or not, because the factory one just has like RTV sealant, which I have here, which I'll probably replace it with. And then my particular truck has the 645 RFE transmission, which is pretty much identical to the 545 RFE, in case anyone's wondering. Okay, so next we're going to drain the fluid, take the pan off, so let's get into that. Okay, so we're going to start removing the bolts here, holding the pan on, so they're 8mm. Remove all the side ones. Then these back ones here, I'm just going to back them out a couple of threads, and that'll help when we drop the pan so it doesn't all come splashing down on us. And then this front, take out these front ones. And these two front ones here, I'm just going to take them out about there, just until, so we can crack the pan and let it drop down. There's one little bit of an awkward one here. Okay, so we've got the three back ones here backed out about 4 threads. The two front ones there holding it backed out almost all the way, but they're still holding. And now we're going to pry off gently the pan. So that was more of a twisting motion there. Didn't take much to break it, which is nice. My pan has some corrosion happening at the back here, which I want to address. I'd like to avoid having to buy a new pan, but we'll see once I get it off. Okay, I think we're probably safe to remove all the bolts. Obviously still supporting the pan once you do so. Front one off. Okay, and then there's one little screw right there that you have to remove, and it's a T25 Torx head. And I'm just going to be using this little wrench that I always carry in my pocket, it's a VIM HBR3. I just picked up on Amazon. It's super handy. It takes these 1/4 inch bits and they lock in nice, and it's reversible. And you kind of need it to get into the spot because it's directly above the exhaust there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And you definitely don't want to strip that or your day is going to be really bad. So removing that screw will allow you to drop this filter. And I just want to, right up in there, there's a little seal we got to pull out. So I'm just using this little hooked end seal puller. And we're just going to get it. Okay, so we're going to give our pan a good clean. See, it's pretty clean. Magnet here, it's not too bad. Okay, so I just took a brass wire wheel to all the rust spots. This was the worst spot here. Must have been some salt or corrosion accumulating. And you can see it's rusted. Very small pinhole, maybe you can see is rusted right through right there. But it's just on the outside of the sealing surface, so I think we'll be okay. Maybe the next time I do this, I might have to get a new pan. But I'm just gonna hit this with some Tremclad, like rust paint, and we'll let it dry. Clean off any of the oils first. Okay, so we're back under the vehicle. We're going to go ahead and reinstall our sealing washer here. And I'm just going to use an 18mm socket to press it into place. This is a little bit of oil dripping here. We'll put on it. Okay, there we go. It's fully seated. You can tell when it starts to get, the hammer is more of a dull sound. And then we're gonna grab our new canister filter, grab a little bit of this oil, put it around the O-ring. Then we'll go ahead and install that to approximately 7 foot-pounds, which is about 3/4 of a turn past contact. So that's about half. And then there's 3/4. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and reinstall our flat filter. Just put a little bit of transmission fluid right here so it goes into that seal nicely. Just like that. And then we're going to put our little T25 Torx in by hand. Just make sure that's up into place. About 7 foot-pounds as well. And then with this little wrench, that would be about 7 foot-pounds there. Just going to give this gasket surface a little bit of a clean here. It's pretty clean, but obviously you want it to be super clean so that your gasket makes good contact. So we're going to clean our gasket sealing surface one more time. Okay, so I'm going to start applying sealant. You'll notice that there's a bit of a valley in between each bolt hole where the sealant can go to create more of a flexible seal. So we're going to go into that, and then we're going to go around each bolt hole, and then we're going to come back and put a strip right across the bolt hole, because these bolts actually need a little bit of sealant on them to seal, because the bolt holes go right into the cavity, the bolt holes on the transmission. Okay, so I got a bolt in my hand. We're gonna slowly put this pan up in here without touching any sealant on anything. So we got our bolts holding that up there. This particular RTV sealant isn't the fast drying, it's just the black. So on the instructions for this particular one, it says to snug the bolts up by hand and then retighten in an hour, or tighten to spec in an hour. And then don't put fluid in for 24 hours, which is quite a while if you have to get this vehicle back in service. But I'm in no rush, so I'm going to give it that time. If you do need to get this thing back going, they do make a quicker type of sealant that you can use. which pretty much will allow you to fill it right away. I mean, I've filled things with this black RTV sealant before right away, but this is one that I probably won't take the chance on. And the nice thing about it is it does stay wet, obviously quite a bit longer, so you have lots of actual working time. Okay, so I've got them all in. I'm gonna go ahead and start torquing them in sort of a crisscross pattern, so this way, then the ends, and then just sort of working my way out like this, just so we can press that seal out. And again, for my particular case, I'm gonna be letting it sit before we torque it for about an hour or so. Okay, then I'm gonna move to this one. And you'll know if you have a good seal because you'll see it sort of squishing out a little bit. And then we're gonna go back to this one. And then crisscross. We'll do another end one here. And then I do have a little swivel on the end of my wrench or extension here, just so I can get into this little bit awkward one. Same with the other side. We'll do this one. And that's what you want to see. You want to see a little bit of that RTV coming out of the area where the bolt is there. That way you know you got pretty good coverage on the bolt itself. Okay, so I'm basically just putting it as tight as I can get this with my hands on this extension. So I'm going to go through it all again. Okay, so we'll give that the hour to set, but what you want to see is it's squishing out there. Hopefully you guys can see that all the way around. Not a crazy amount, but just enough that you know that the whole cavity is filled like there. It's a little thin, but it is squishing out. Okay, and then we're going to come back and torque these to 105 inch-pounds in an hour. Okay guys, it's been just under an hour. Gonna go ahead and torque these down. I've got my torque wrench set to 105 inch-pounds. And this will probably take a couple of go-rounds because I don't want to torque them all at once. Although that one got torqued. Here. Here. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can probably see by how I'm tightening these that it doesn't take much. Those ones are already tight. I already did this one. I'll move to this one. Okay, there we go. Now, because I have the time, I'm gonna let that cure for the full 24 hours, and then we're gonna refill the transmission. Okay, so it's been about 24 hours, and I measured the fluid that we took out, and it was 8 liters. So I'm gonna put in about maybe 5-6 liters, and then we'll check it, run it for a bit, and then we'll check it when it's running, while it's running, and just make sure we're between the lines. So I know I can dump in this full 5-liter jug. Okay, so I just put in, I think about just over 6 liters. So I'm gonna start the truck to get it flowing through, because you gotta keep in mind it was draining out of the cooler and everything as well. Put it in neutral. Okay, so we're just on the low end of the cold add side. So we're gonna add a little bit more. And if you see, it says right on the dipstick, do not add if oil level is between lower holes for cold or upper holes for hot oil. It says idle in neutral, do not overfill, use Mopar ATF4, type 9602 Autotrans fluid. Okay, and if you see, I added a little bit more. We're just at the top of the cold. So we're good to go. And so what I'll do now, and what you should do as well, is take it out for a drive, nice long drive, and then check it to make sure when it's warm, you're between the 2 hot marks, and then you're good to go. So if you have any questions, just please leave them in the comments.